Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. Following the ancient and solemn passage, Luo Feng advanced along the secluded path. It was composed of numerous huge, squared stone slabs. Every slab had a different carving. No two sculptures were the same. Each was carved to so-called perfection. Even Luo Feng himself could not help but admire these sculptures every time he lowered his head toward the slabs. What might have looked like normal roads and courtyard walls were, in fact, rich with hidden luxuries. Turning the corner, he saw a door that had been left open. Huh! With a single glance, Luo Feng looked beyond the door and saw that inside the room, there were some automaton components and weapon parts placed about casually and in a messy manner. Luo Feng walked to the door and saw a man wearing a beautiful robe. He was looking intently at several different automaton components placed beside him. The man in the beautiful robe turned and looked toward Luo Feng. Then he smiled. "Since you are here, do take a seat first." Up ahead was an exquisite black throne. Luo Feng did not say a word. Obediently, he went to the throne and sat down. Since it was His Majesty the Godly King who had created Wuqi Tower, and had designed so many difficult obstacles that had caused countless elite warriors of the world of Jin to perish one after the other, he must have had a goal in mind. This man, Luo Feng took a careful look. Strange. Even the virtual consciousness of the previous Duan Dong River carried an air of oppressive force. How could he not have even the slightest bit of oppressive force? It was as though Luo Feng was still a child and had run into an elderly old grandfather from his neighborhood. He looked at the man before him and could not help but feel a sort of amicable nature toward him. He had no fear. Instead, he felt very much at home. Impressive. Luo Feng was secretly shocked. Even with the strength of my willpower, I am still unable to control myself. I have already developed good-natured feelings for him. The man wearing the beautiful robe looked toward Luo Feng. You must be very curious. Why did Godly King create this Wuqi Tower? Why design so many difficult obstacles? Now, let me tell you why. First, I have to tell you my identity. I am the Godly King of this world of Jin. Luo Feng was astonished. His Majesty the Godly King. He might have guessed as much, but he had not dared to believe it. This common-looking man, who bore the look of an ordinary grandfather from Earth, was His Majesty the Godly King. Technically, I am the virtual consciousness left behind by His Majesty the Godly King after he was gone, said the man in the beautiful robe as he looked at Luo Feng. Virtual consciousness. In his heart, Luo Feng was secretly shocked. But things were just as he had guessed. His Majesty the Godly King had truly died. You don't seem to be overly surprised, said the man, still looking at Luo Feng. Seems like everything is within your expectations. I may have observed you from afar, but there is nothing else I can tell about you. But now I know, you are not a life form from my world of Jin. Luo Feng was inwardly shocked. He almost wanted to self-destruct right away. But on the outside, Luo Feng maintained a calm composure. I am not exactly indifferent, he said. I do still feel shocked, but everything you just said was simply unbelievable. That is why I still maintain a dubious attitude. You say you are His Majesty the Godly King. Then you say you are the virtual consciousness left behind by the Godly King after he died. The noble Godly King is very far from me, and how could it be possible for him to die? Also, you mentioned that I am not a life form from the world of Jin. What do you mean? Ha ha, the man wearing the beautiful robe laughed joyfully. No need to put up your guard against me. There is no need for worries. He laughed again and said, I will tell you everything in detail. Then you will understand. Luo Feng listened carefully. Back then, a hint of recollection flashed in the eyes of the man in the robe. It was a long, long time ago. I chose a hopeless road that seemed to lead to nowhere but doom, so before I set off, I created this Wuchi Tower in my world of Jin, and left the mission to receive a title. Even if I failed, then perhaps I would still have a shot at reversing the situation. Then I left. But only after I left a virtual consciousness here. One that had all my memories and thoughts. It was almost my essence in its entirety. The only difference was that it was not a true life form. Of course, even though I am this virtual consciousness, in my subconscious mind, I still think of myself as the godly king. Luo Feng nodded to indicate his understanding. After all, this virtual consciousness did possess all the memories and thoughts of that His Majesty the godly king of Jin. After the godly king left, I truly have no idea what kind of dangers he encountered, continued the man in the robe. After all, I was unable to establish contact with him. He sighed. Through my understanding of the world of Jin, I eventually found out, on a particular day, that the godly king had been annihilated. Wuchi Tower has a total of 9 levels, he continued. The 9th level is where one can connect to the core of the universe origin of the entire world of Jin. I frequent the core of the origin of the world of Jin, and the annihilation of godly king inevitably led to a major change to the core. He looked at Luo Feng. Besides, I have concluded that you are not a life form from my world of Jin, because the moment you entered the 9th level, the core of universe origin, that the 9th level was connected to did not acknowledge your presence. If you were a life form from within the world of Jin, then you would be regarded as a child of the world of Jin. Being acknowledged as one is automatic. Furthermore, you would also be unquestionably loyal to His Majesty the godly king, willing to die for him. Luo Feng understood. It was just like how the life form's 9 remoteness master created paid absolute loyalty to him. The same theory applied here. Life forms within the world of Jin would be absolutely loyal to His Majesty the godly king. The 4 great commanders were no exception. Just one order from the godly king asking for them to sacrifice themselves, and they would comply without hesitation. Oh. Well, since you are aware of this, how do you wish to proceed? Luo Feng was growing increasingly wary. Killing him would be far too easy, given his opponent's ability. There was no questioning this. But for a high and mighty godly king to spend so much time telling him all these details, he must have had an agenda. You only need to take an oath, said the man in the beautiful robe, laughing light-heartedly as he spoke. In the future, when you become a great being at the level of a godly king, you must do your utmost best to kill the other 3 pinnacle existences. Huh? Luo Feng was taken aback. An oath. The ancient civilizations certainly had many oaths that reached deep within the soul. If an oath was broken, total destruction of body and soul would be the only outcome. It was absolute annihilation. When I become a great being at the level of a godly king. Luo Feng was shocked into a flustered state. I am merely a lawmaster now. Which is why you have no cause for concern, said the robed man, shaking his head. At the moment, all this is still far beyond your reach. You are unable to render any help to my world of Jin. This will just be a promise you give to me. A promise to be realized when you become a godly king. Fret not. Once you have given your promise, there are only good things awaiting you. If you choose to reject it, and choose to self-destruct, the moment you do so, I will have to annihilate your soul. I know that most life forms from outside my world of Jin have the ability to divide bodies. Luo Feng was dumbstruck. It seemed His Majesty the godly king here had a great understanding of many things. I know more than you might expect, said the man as he gazed at Luo Feng. Make your choice then. To promise or to reject. Luo Feng laughed in a resigned manner, then said, do I even have a choice? What a joke. This had been left behind by a godly king. Luo Feng had to believe it was true. Even if he chose to self-destruct, the moment it happened, his soul would probably be annihilated, and his various other bodies would be annihilated at the same time. That meant absolute death. Moreover, the promise in question would only have to be fulfilled after he became a godly king. A godly king, indeed. How distant that was. It would mean rising above an eternal true God. Luo Feng himself was not even sure he could cultivate to that level. After all, based on all the bits of information he had gathered, he had hypothesized that a godly king was likely comparable to the 3 generations of ancestors. I must verify that you mean everything you promised, said the man in the robe, and that your oath is true. After all, I am only a virtual consciousness. If I am cheated by you. He laughed, then pointed to the surroundings far in the distance. Instantly, up in mid-air, many strands of law engravings started appearing. In a short moment, the surroundings were encapsulated by a giant cage composed of countless law engravings. Misty cyan-colored light moved over to enshroud Luo Feng. This way, I will be able to track any trace of change in your soul, the robed man said with a smile. If you are not truthful, I will also, The man in the beautiful robe suddenly stood up wearing a look of surprise. Luo Feng was taken aback. The man appeared awestruck as looked at Luo Feng and said, You. What about me? Luo Feng was filled with doubts. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Ha ha. The man in the beautiful robe laughed loudly and without any inhibitions. With an incomparable satisfaction, he laughed. Luo Feng felt all the more uncertain. What was the matter? Disperse. The man wearing the beautiful robe pointed in mid-air, and the countless law engravings that were originally suspended in the void space completely disperse. Your Majesty, godly king, didn't you want me to swear an oath? Luo Feng said, at a loss. There's no need to, said the man in the beautiful robe. He smiled at Luo Feng. Since you have already finished the cultivation of the 9-volume manual, there is no need for you to take an oath. The 9-volume manual. Luo Feng was greatly taken aback, so stunned that he lost all composure. The 9-volume manual. This was the manual that had truly changed his destiny. It was all thanks to the 9-volume manual that he was able to make it this far along his path as a great being. If not for the 9-volume manual, perhaps he would still have become a great being, but not to the extent of his current achievement. The 9-volume manual, according to teacher Sitting Mountain Guest, was a creation he had created, and it could only be imparted to a single cultivator. This chosen one had to be a life form from the pulse of the earthlings in order to be able to cultivate it. What is the... Luo Feng's mind seemed about to burst with an overwhelming surge of thoughts gushing in endlessly. Only an earthling could cultivate the 9-volume manual. And only one cultivator was allowed to cultivate it. If Sitting Mountain Guest had created this manual, how did His Majesty the Godly King know about it? Yes. Luo Feng had been suspicious, even long ago, that the 9-volume manual was simply too formidable. Its creation was something that other true gods could never have achieved. Even Purple Moon Ancestor and East Emperor Ancestor, as well informed as they were, had never conceived of the creation of such a formidable manual. And yet, Sitting Mountain Guest had created it without ceremony. What is it about the 9-volume manual? Luo Feng pressed on. Ha ha. This 9-volume manual, the man in the beautiful robe said with a laugh, was a set of lost knowledge from my world of Jinn that should never have been revealed. Upon cultivating it, not only will one's godly body undergo a rapid change, but it will also be a great deal of help to the soul. It is a superset of knowledge that will bring about an absolute change in one's talent in the area of comprehension. So long as one has cultivated the 9-volume manual, he would be the true core of my Jinn nation. You have cultivated the 9-volume manual, so naturally, you belong to the pulse of my Jinn. When you rise in the future, if you do not kill the other 3, they will come after your life instead. So, most certainly, there is no longer a need for you to take an oath. No wonder teacher Sitting Mountain Guest hadn't contacted him since he entered the world of Jinn. Neither had he asked him about the world of Jinn. Sitting Mountain Guest hadn't even entered the world of Jinn. All great beings in Universe Ocean are curious about the world of Jinn, and there are no exceptions. Primal Chaos City Leader, and other great beings from the Hong Alliance are all curious about it, and lots of them ask me questions. Yet teacher Sitting Mountain Guest has never asked me about anything. I've been confused about how teacher Sitting Mountain Guest was able to create the 9-volume manual, and Star Tower as only a true god. Luo Feng felt that he knew a bit more about Sitting Mountain Guest now. Even though he still hadn't figured out much about the mysterious Sitting Mountain Guest, he at least knew now that he was somehow related to the world of Jinn. As for the core of Jinn, Jinn country was destroyed, and the godly king was dead. Those supreme beings who followed His Majesty the godly king might have already died. Without a doubt, Sitting Mountain Guest was a true god. However, did Sitting Mountain Guest obtain an inheritance like me? Did he get the inheritance from His Majesty the godly king, or from a supreme being under the godly king? Thoughts flooded Luo Feng's mind, and he temporarily pushed back the confusion. At least he knew more about Sitting Mountain Guest now. Luo Feng's mind raced, yet he was still able to talk with the godly king normally. Your Majesty, who are the 3 supreme beings you talked about? I need to know about them first. Of course, said the man in the luxurious cape. They are the 3 country masters of another superpower, Sha country. Masters of Sha country. Luo Feng nodded but was confused. Where are they now? Could it be? Was Sha country destroyed? The remains he had found about the ancient civilization all concluded that they were from a destroyed civilization. Only the world of Jinn was still intact. Destroyed. The man in the luxurious cape looked befuddled. Then he sighed. Yes. It has been a very long time. Sha country may have been destroyed. Luo Feng couldn't help asking, Your Majesty, if they are still alive, how am I supposed to find them? Universe Ocean was too mysterious. Nobody had ever inspected the edge of it. That giant object that looked like the body of His Majesty, the godly king, could have flown from a remote area of Universe Ocean. Could there be other creatures in the remote area of Universe Ocean? Were there other powers? He didn't know. To true gods, Universe Ocean was unfathomably large. If they wandered too far, chances were they would get lost. There's no rush. The man in the luxurious cape smiled. When you become stronger, you'll know more secrets. As for whether Sha country has been destroyed or not, even if it has been, it's impossible for all the 3 country masters to have died. Luo Feng memorized his words. Look. The man in the white cape pointed at a ground close to him, and a machine appeared. What? Luo Feng said, looking at the machine carefully. It had a smooth body shaped like a monkey, with a flexible tail. It sat there in silence. The power made Luo Feng's heart race. The man in the luxurious cape said casually, This is the true god machine, Wu Chi god. It's one of the beast true god level machines, and it only allows one great being to use it. It's definitely a top-tier, true god machine that can fully utilize your power. The only downside is that it consumes a great deal of energy. You already have an enormous body, but you still need to be careful. Don't use too much godly power at once. Otherwise, it'll take you a long time to recover your body. Luo Feng nodded, looking at Wu Chi God with eyes gleaming. A long time to recover. What a joke. He had endless remote ocean. If you finish the sealing task and become a sealed great being, you're qualified to get Wu Chi God. This Wu Chi God is yours now, said the man in the cape. Mine? But the military credits, Luo Feng said, looking at the man in the cape. Wu Chi God required 30 million military credits. Ha ha. For every task finished, you receive military credits, laughed the man in the cape. This sealing task is strenuous, so the prize is 30 million military credits. Do you really want some other valuable instead of Wu Chi God? You can make your own decision if you want. No, of course I will, said Luo Feng. So, this was how it worked. The prize for the sealing task was 30 million military credits, which meant the final prize was to give the great being Wu Chi God. Wu Chi God. Luo Feng looked at the machine in front of him. Universe Ocean is in chaos now, especially after the 4 lands of extremis. Besides, the original mind guided us to this land. Great Thunder Star Master performed a form of power completely different from godly power. There must be a secret behind all these events. Luo Feng felt that a storm was coming. The more powerful I become, the better I can cope with this situation. Besides, I've journeyed through Wu Chi Tower, and I got many machine-type valuables and true god-level armors on the 3rd floor from those soldiers. I can go back and exchange them for military credits, then exchange them back for some valuables fit for my human race. He was only one man, so he only needed several valuables, especially after he became a true god. He would only have one body, so he only needed a few powerful valuables. As for the majority of the machine-type valuables he obtained, he did that because he needed to think about the future of the human race. Of course, he wouldn't just give them away for free. Nobody could get anything for free. Hong. Luo Feng strolled to Wu Chi God and sealed his life imprint in it. Hua. This machine-type valuable, which looked like a black monkey, merged with Luo Feng's body immediately, transforming him into a human-shaped monkey with a tail, but the face was still Luo Feng's face. So complicated. Luo Feng studied it a bit and could tell that the engravings were intricate, much more so than Bib Bird and Golden Claw God. This is a true god-level machine, and it's one of the most top-tier machines, said the man in the cape. If you want to maximize its power, your comprehension of laws needs to be top-tier, at true god level. Of course, even though you're only a law master, you can still use it. The power of this machine is divided into 3 levels. Luo Feng smiled. There were 3 ways to use it, yet even the first way was more complicated than Bib Bird or Golden Claw God, let alone the 3rd way. Perhaps he could only utilize the 3rd way after becoming a true god. Put your Wu Chi God away, said the man in the cape. I don't want those soldiers to know the secret behind this sealing task. That was why I used Wu Chi God, as a shield to tempt those law masters and true gods. Actually, it's no valuable. Luo Feng didn't argue. It was true. To the great godly king, a true god-level machine was nothing, even if it was a top-tier one. However, he was a law master, so while he was a law master or a true god, Wu Chi God would be his best valuable. It might still be handy even after he became a true god of void space. Since I hope you'll become a godly king, I'll give you the practicing methods. The man in the luxurious cape shook his head. However, I'm proficient in valuables making, but apparently, you are not. As for those fighting-type techniques, I'm not good at it. I've prepared an inheritance for you. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. An inheritance. The more, the better. Start comprehending it yourself. The man in the cape threw out a crystal glowing with black light. I'm the only godly king in Jinn country, so I can't give you the best inheritance in fighting. This is a combination of all the techniques obtained by me and the great beings working for me by killing others. It'll help you become a godly king. Luo Feng nodded and strolled to the crystal. It would take him a long time to receive the inheritance, though, so he would have to study it after leaving Wuqi Tower. You need time to study the inheritance, said the man in the cape. Though Wuqi God is very helpful, you could die if you come across a true god of void space. Which is why I shall grant you the strength of a world in the world of Jinn. Strength of a world, said Luo Feng, dazed. You've finished the sealing task, said the man. You're at the same status as the 4 generals, but only on the surface. The generals know that you are now the most important individual in the world of Jinn. You have absolute authority in the world of Jinn. If anyone dares to cross you, you can use the strength of a world to deal with him. Luo Feng looked pleased. How powerful is this strength of a world? You can suppress eternal true gods, and kill any true god of void space, said the man in the luxurious cape. But don't slaughter. Luo Feng nodded. I understand. The godly king of Jinn treated him so kindly, all because he had gotten Lai Yuan technique, and he counted on him to kill the 3 country masters of Sha country. After all, the godly king of Jinn had already died. He gave Luo Feng such authority, because he had placed his hopes in Luo Feng, at least in the world of Jinn. So I can use the strength of a world in the world of Jinn. Luo Feng was pleased. Then the lives of all those great beings in Universe Ocean, who entered the world of Jinn are in my hands. The godly king had only told him not to slaughter. That meant he could kill a reasonable number of beings. I've already given you everything I can, said the man in the cape. I am already dead. All this is everything I can offer you. You're on your own from now on. It's time for you to leave Wuqi Tower. Luo Feng bowed to show his gratefulness. After all, the godly king had helped him a lot. A light pillar arrived and hit Luo Feng. Luo Feng disappeared from Wuqi Tower and was transported out. They had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Ever since His Majesty the godly king left Wuqi Tower, their sole purpose had been to find that peerless talent, which was more important than their own lives. It disappeared. The sealing task disappeared. The sealing task of law masters have disappeared. He succeeded. That soldier Milky Way must have reached the top of Wuqi Tower. The 4 leaders in the palace were watching carefully at every moment. They could see the tasks in the 4 armies and Godly King Valley, but after Luo Feng entered the 8th floor of Wuqi Tower, they didn't know what had happened. However, Luo Feng had been in there for a long time without coming out. Their expectations were aflame. They were all staring at the task list, and they all cried out at once. Shua! 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 The 4 beings disappeared from the palace and arrived at the ground floor of Wuqi Tower. Some of the true god guards around Wuqi Tower were startled. It was quite rare for all the leaders to come out altogether. The leaders. It's the leaders. All 4 leaders are here. The 4 leaders were looking at the front door of Wuqi Tower. Why he hasn't come out? He should have come out now. The 4 leaders were transmitting their voices and waiting eagerly. Little did they know was that the task had been rescinded when Luo Feng finished the 8th floor, and Luo Feng was talking with His Majesty the Godly King on the 9th floor. After a long time, the towering door was opened and a soldier walked out. He has walked out. In the endless time after Wuqi Tower was created, the soldiers who survived were all transported out, and no one walked out of the front door. Besides, all the other soldiers were transported out a long time ago, yet this one stayed inside for a long time. Did he actually make it to the top? The four leaders are greeting him. He must have succeeded. The true God guards had seen many soldiers go inside before, so they also knew something about Wuchi Tower. They were indeed shocked. Luo Feng saw four beings when he came out. A cloud of black mist, a towering male being, a silver-armored female being, and a strange beast great being. Four of them stood shoulder to shoulder and looked at him, elated. Luo Feng looked at those four, but he didn't know what to say. He didn't know any of them. We are the four leaders of Godly King Valley. We've been guarding Godly King Valley under the order of His Majesty the Godly King, the voice of the towering leader rumbled. Also, we've been waiting for a peerless talent, who can make it to the top of Wuchi Tower. Milky Way Jin, we're really glad that you were able to succeed. Milky Way Jin, please come inside the palace. Luo Feng nodded. Then he followed the four leaders and walked toward the Silver Palace. The true God guards couldn't hear their conversations. The towering leader glanced at those guards. Say nothing about today. Yes, leader, all the soldiers answered respectfully. On the first floor of the Silver Palace, Luo Feng spoke with the leaders. He was surprised at how excited and enthusiastic they were. They are way too excited, he thought. The cloud of black mist condensed into a blurry human shape. We've been hoping for someone to reach the top of Wuchi Tower for a long time, it said. We've waited for this moment for an eternity. It has been a great burden on us, and it has been pressuring us for such a long time. Every time we think about this, we just feel so sorry for His Majesty the Godly King. Now that you've succeeded, Milky Way, we can finally enjoy a sense of relief. The silver-armored female leader was sitting there, and there was a tear in her eye. It's been too long, she said. Just wait here a bit, Milky Way. We've informed the four generals that you just made it to the top of Wuchi Tower, the towering leader explained. The four generals are mighty, so they will be able to arrive here in a very short period of time. Just like us, for an eternity, the four generals have been wondering about the best way to screen and cultivate a peerless genius who could make it to the top of Wuchi Tower. The four generals will also be excited and happy when they know that you have succeeded. They'll want to meet you. Luo Feng nodded and smiled. I've known about the four generals for a long time. I've always wanted to meet them, but I've never gotten a chance. As a sealed great being, especially someone who got sealed by reaching the top of Wuchi Tower, he was at the same level as the generals, at least on the surface. Actually, he was superior to the generals and leaders. Just as Luo Feng was talking with the four leaders, four beings entered the palace. Luo Feng saw two tribal great beings and two strange beast great beings. They were all suppressing their powers, yet Luo Feng still felt pressured by the invisible forces. Milky Way, this is the General Harmonious Snow from the East Army. The towering leader said, introducing him. Harmonious Snow was the gentlest one out of the four generals. He had snowy skin, and there were green patterns beside his ears. He looked elegant in that white armor, and there was a pupil between his eyebrows. He looked elevated and gazed at Luo Feng with all his eyes gleaming. We've been waiting for this moment for too long. We've finally lived up to His Majesty the Godly King. Introduce me now, roared a giant strange beast with 6 faces. All 6 ugly and ferocious faces then smiled at Luo Feng. I'm North. No need to rush. I'll introduce you all one by one. Luo Feng finally realized how keen the generals were. The 4 generals and leaders had been waiting for this moment for an eternity, and their sole purpose was to find a peerless genius that could reach the top of Wuchi Tower. That purpose trumped their own practicing, even their own lives. They were all excited to find out that Luo Feng had arrived. Milky Way, you can go train yourself, but the world of Jin is enormous. And your power. You might not be entirely safe. I'll arrange some true gods of void space to protect you in secret. Milky Way. The four generals kept talking. They literally treated Luo Feng as if he were an invaluable treasure. They feared something bad might happen to this precious commodity. After half a day, Luo Feng left Godly King Valley. The leaders and generals, Luo Feng said. They even wanted to escort me back to the East Army. They treat me like their children, and they are willing to give me anything I want. Luo Feng could feel from the conversation that the generals and leaders were treating him like the inheritor of the Godly King. Back to the East Army. Luo Feng sat in the silver boat and flew away. When Luo Feng finished the Na Yin technique of Lai Yuan technique, both remote ocean body and Mosha body stopped spreading the willpower shock and became conscious. Primal Chaos City leader, True Yang Knight, and others who were concerned about Luo Feng all contacted him. Luo Feng then briefed them on what had happened and made them understand the issue behind that. But of course, Luo Feng couldn't share the big secret. Teacher True Yang has the training guide from the ancient civilization, thought Luo Feng, and has already reached the level of a limit universe knight. He's only one step away from becoming a universe master. I'll have to give him a huge present after he becomes a universe master. True Yang Knight was Luo Feng's teacher, which was why he gave him many resources, so True Yang could improve himself fast. Luo Feng was closest to True Yang out of all his teachers, followed by Primal Chaos City leader, followed by Sitting Mountain guest. True Yang Knight treated his disciple like family, while Chaos valued Luo Feng, because he was a great treasure to humans. As for Sitting Mountain, he had other plans. Of course, all of them were teachers for whom Luo Feng was genuinely grateful. He wanted to pay them back, but Sitting Mountain guest had never told him anything he needed. True Yang, Big Brother Hong, and Second Brother Thunder God are all still undying, Luo Feng thought. For all these years, I've been fighting for the human race, but I need to care for the Earthlings and my family now. Luo Feng left Godly King Valley and raced toward the East Army. It was a long way to go, and all the while, Luo Feng was studying Wu Qi God. There were 3 levels of Wu Qi God. The first level was superior to Golden Claw God and Bib Bird. As for the third level, it was stronger than many machine-type valuables of True Gods of Void Space, which was why it was the ultimate True God machine. It has taken me almost a day to fully understand how to use this Wu Qi God. A day was almost 10 years in the space of inheritance. Luo Feng wore Wu Qi God, and his entire body looked like a monkey clad in armor, though it still had Luo Feng's face. It turned black, and its tail was slashing. Burn. Burn. Luo Feng immediately burned his body, and performed the second volume of Duan Mie at the same time. His energies surged and extended to the entire Wu Qi God. 16 cores of Wu Qi God were transformed at once, and each of the 4 formed an engraving picture. All the engraving pictures combined to form a virtual core inside Wu Qi God. Hong. Gleaming golden light-filled Wu Qi God. Su. 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 Millions of phantoms of Luo Feng were left in the palace of Boat of Mausoleum. Then they disappeared. It's too powerful. Luo Feng was amazed. With this Wu Qi God, I can give away both Golden Claw God and Bib Bird. With this valuable, those Universe Supreme Masters in Universe Ocean won't be my match even if they can get a machine-type valuable. Luo Feng was confident, but he added in a whisper, Wu Qi God indeed consumes godly power very fast. He was flying swiftly under the second volume of Duan Mie, and combined with driving Wu Qi God, it devoured his godly power. If he was still the same Luo Feng, who only had a godly body of 100,000 kilometers, it might have been gone instantly. Fortunately, he had a large enough godly body now, but he still didn't dare to fight for too long. No wonder His Majesty the godly king told me it consumes lots of power even when he knew I had a giant godly body. Luo Feng sighed. Finally, after 3 months, Luo Feng arrived back at the East Army. This video will end here.